Hello children. In this video and coming videos we'll learn about the very first chapter of your 8th class science, which is crop production and management. In this video I'll teach you about how are different food crops produced and what are Kharif crops and Rabi crops. So in chapter 1 you will learn about the following things. First is agricultural practices, in which you will study about Kharif and Rabi crops. The second one is basic practices of crop production, which include preparation of soil, sowing, adding manure and fertilizers, irrigation, protection of crops from weeds, harvesting and storage, and then food from animals that we'll cover afterwards. So you have learned that all the living organisms require food. Plants can make their food themselves by the process of photosynthesis. You have done this chapter in your previous class, how plants prepare their food. Animals including humans cannot make their own food, and we used to get our food from plants, and our food can be animal also. Human population is increasing at a rapid rate. In order to meet its food requirement, we not only need to enhance food production but also need to manage production practices, that is storage and distribution of food also. So India's most important crops include cotton, tea, rice, wheat and sugarcane. Other important cash crops include jute, groundnuts, coffee, oilseeds and spices. So the practice of growing plants and rearing animals on a large scale for food, fiber and other useful products is called as agriculture. So we'll study about agricultural practices now. So first of all we must know what is a crop. When plants of the same kind are cultivated at one place on a large scale, it is called a crop. For example, crop of wheat means that all the plants growing in a field are that of wheat. The products obtained from crops are referred to as a crop produce. So a crop grown for purpose of food is called as a food crop. For example, wheat and paddy. Whereas a crop grown for the purpose of sale as well as profit and for non-subsistence, that crop is called as the cash crop. For example, tea and coconut. So crops are of different types like cereals, vegetables and fruits. These can be classified on the basis of season in which they grow. India is a vast country and the climatic conditions like temperature, humidity and rainfall vary from one region to another. Accordingly, there is a rich variety of crops grown in different parts of country. So based on the season, the crops are of following types. The first one is a Kharif crop. The crops which are sown in the rainy season. Such crops are called as Kharif crops. The rainy season in India is generally from June to September. These crops are grown in June and July and are harvested in September and October. They require more water for the growth and hence are grown during the monsoon season in India. Examples include paddy, maize, soybean, groundnut, cotton. Next one are Rabi crops. These crops are grown between October and April. They require less water and hence are grown during the winter season. The examples include wheat, gram, pea, mustard, linseed, barley, etc. Do you know there is a third category of crops also? These crops are called as Z crops. These crops are grown on the irrigated lands which do not have to wait for monsoons. In the short duration between Rabi and Kharif season, these crops are grown. And mainly from March to June is the time period for their growth. Examples include watermelon, cucumber, muskmelon, sunflower, sugarcane. So students, the branch of agriculture that deals with science and art of production, improvement, marketing and use of fruits, vegetables, flowers and ornamental plants is called as horticulture. Hello children, Welcome to the second series of this chapter, Crop Production and Management. In this series, we'll study about the basic practices of crop production. We will cover preparation of soil, in which we'll cover about plowing and agricultural implements. And we'll study about the second part also, that is called as sowing, in which we'll study about the selection of seeds and tools used for sowing seeds. Basic practices of crop production. The cultivation of crops involves several activities undertaken by the farmers over a period of time. You may find that these activities are similar to those carried out by a gardener or even by you when you grow ornamental plants in your house. These activities or tasks are referred to as agricultural practices. So the major step involved in agricultural practices is preparation of soil, sowing, adding manure and fertilizer, irrigation, protection from weeds, harvesting and storage. In this video, we'll cover about the first and second part in detail. We'll study about preparation of soil, in which we'll study about plowing and agricultural implements, and we'll cover about the second part, that is sowing, in which we'll study about selection of seeds and tools used for sowing seeds. Preparation of soil. Soil is the medium in which plants grow and derive water and minerals from. Therefore, maintaining soil quality and fertility is crucial for a good crop. The preparation of soil is the first step before growing a crop. One of the most important tasks in agriculture is to turn the soil and loosen it. This allows the roots to penetrate deep into the soil. The loose soil allows the roots to breathe easily, even when they go deep into the soil. The loosened soil helps in the growth of earthworm and microbes present in the soil. These organisms are the friends of farmer, since they further turn and loose the soil and add humus to it. Soil contains minerals, water, air and some living organisms in it. In addition, dead plants and animals get decomposed by soil organisms. In this way, various nutrients in the dead organisms are released back into the soil. These nutrients are again absorbed by the plants. Since only a few centimeters of the top layer of the soil supports plant growth, turning and loosening of soil brings the nutrient-rich soil to the top so that plants can use these nutrients. So the techniques used for preparing soil before the seeds are sown are called as plowing and leveling. So let's study about plowing first of all. Plowing is a process of loosening and turning of the soil. It is also called as tilling or plowing. This is done by using a plow. Plows are made of wood or iron. If the soil is very dry, it may need watering before plowing. The plowed field may have big clumps of soil called as crumbs. It is necessary to break these crumbs. So here comes leveling. Leveling the field is beneficial for sowing as well as for irrigation. Leveling of the soil is done with the help of a leveler. Agricultural implements for tilling or plowing. Hoe is used. It is a simple tool which is used for removing weeds and for loosening of soil. Nowadays, cultivator is used, and it is a tractor driven cultivator. The use of cultivator saves labor and time. Next is sowing. Sowing is the most important part of the crop production. Before sowing, good quality seeds are selected. The good quality seeds are clear and healthy seeds of a good variety. Farmers prefer to use seeds which give a high yield. Tools used for sowing seeds. First is broadcasting. The tool used traditionally for sowing seeds is shaped like a funnel. The seeds are filled in the funnel, passed down through 2 or 3 pipes having sharp ends. These ends pierce into the soil and place seeds there. In broadcasting, it involves the scattering of seeds by hand. This has 2 advantages. The seeds are not evenly distributed and they lie too close to the surface. Even though seeds can be covered with soil, the problem of uneven spacing remains there. So a modern method of sowing seeds was required. So here comes our seed drill. Nowadays, the seed drill is used for sowing with the help of tractors. This tool sows the seeds uniformly at a proper distance and depths. It also ensures that seeds get covered with the soil. It is a quicker and better method of sowing seeds. A seed drill is a funnel-shaped bowl connected to a series of long tubes that have narrow holes. It is connected to a plow and releases the seeds gradually as the plow furrows the land. The seeds get covered by soil automatically. This prevents the damage caused by birds, and this method saves time as well as labor. Hello children, welcome to the third series of this chapter, Crop Production and Management. In the previous videos, we have covered about preparation of soil and sowing. In this video, we'll be covering adding manure and fertilizers and irrigation also. So let's study about manures and fertilizers. A continuous crop year after year depletes nutrients from the soil. So the soil has to be replenished with its lost nutrients from time to time using materials such as manures and fertilizers. The substances which are added to the soil in the form of nutrients for the healthy growth of plants are called manure and fertilizers. Soil supplies mineral nutrients to the crop. These nutrients are essential for the growth of plants. In certain areas, if the farmers grow crop after crop in the same field, so it makes the soil poor in certain nutrients. Therefore, farmers have to add manure to the field to replenish the soil with nutrients. This process is called as manuring. Improper or sufficient manuring results in weak plants. So let's study about the difference between manure and fertilizers. So manure is an organic substance obtained from the decomposition of plants or animal waste, whereas fertilizer, it is an inorganic salt. Manures are prepared in the fields, whereas fertilizers, they are prepared in the factories. Manures provide a lot of humus to the soil, whereas fertilizers, they do not provide any humus to the soil. Manures are less rich in plant nutrients, whereas fertilizers are very rich in plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. And certain fertilizers are urea, ammonium sulfate, superphosphate, potash, NPK. Remember NPK. NPK is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Manures are quite bulky and difficult to transport, whereas fertilizers, they are less bulky and are easy to transport. Manures are not harmful, but they may not help in removing specific nutrient deficiencies in the soil, whereas fertilizers, their continuous use increases crop production but can lead to soil and water pollution. Manures increase the water holding capacity of soil. They improve soil texture also and make the soil porous, which facilitates gaseous exchange, whereas fertilizers, their overuse can make the soil less fertile in the long run. Manures are not soluble in water, so therefore are absorbed by plants slowly, whereas fertilizers are dissolved, they can be easily dissolved in water, therefore they can be absorbed by the plants quickly. Compost is a manure obtained by decomposition of dead plants and animals. Some other sustainable techniques of improving soil quality include field farrow and crop rotation also. Certain times symbiosis is also required. So nutrients are replenished in the soil when dead animals and plants are decomposed by the microbes. This process is called as field farrow. Soil can also be naturally replenished using the method of crop rotation, which involves growing 2 or more crops alternatively on the same land in the same season. For example, after growing wheat for a season, farmers prefer to grow a crop of legume family. For example, peas or grams or groundnut. These leguminous plants have nitrogen fixing bacteria in them called as rhizobium. These bacteria associate with the root forming nodules and convert atmospheric nitrogen into the compounds that can be used by the plants. Plants in turn provide shelter to the bacteria, so it is a good example of a mutual relation called as symbiosis. Next is irrigation. Seeds do not germinate in the absence or scarcity of water. So the supply of water to the crops at regular intervals is called as irrigation. The time and frequency of irrigation varies from crop to crop, soil to soil, and season to season. In summers, the frequency of water is higher due to the increased rate of evaporation of water from the soil and leaves. So there are various sources of irrigation like wells, tube wells, ponds, lakes, rivers, dams and canals. It can be rainfall also. So there are various traditional and modern methods of irrigation. These are chain pump, pulley system, dhekli, lever system also. These systems use cattle or humans to pull water from the well. Although these methods are cheaper, they are not efficient. Pumps are also commonly used for irrigation and are run using diesel, biogas or electricity. The modern methods of irrigation include sprinkler method and drip method. In sprinkler method, water is sprinkled over the field by rotating sprinklers. Water flows to the main pipe and then to the small pipes with the help of a pump. This method is used for uneven land with scarcity of water and in sandy regions. In drip system, the water is allowed to fall drop by drop only on the roots of plants. The method is excellent for regions with water scarcity, as in this method there is no wastage of water. Hello children, welcome to the fourth series of this chapter, Crop Production and Management. In the previous videos, we discussed about various agricultural practices like preparation of soil, sowing, adding manure and fertilizers, and irrigation. This video will be based on protection of plants from weeds, harvesting, and storage of the crop. So let's study about protecting the plants from weeds. In field, many other undesirable plants may grow naturally along with the crop. These undesirable plants are called as weeds. The removal of weeds is called as weeding. Weeding is necessary since weeds compete with the crop plants for water, nutrients, space and light. Thus they affect the growth of the crop. Weeds can be controlled by using certain chemicals called as weedicides. For example, 2,4-D. The manual removal includes physical removal of the weeds by uprooting or cutting them close to the ground from time to time. This is done with the help of a sickle. Weeds can also be removed by growing certain plants such as sunflower and soya bean among the crop plants. These plants release toxic substances into the soil which do not allow the growth of these weeds. Crops can also be attacked by bacteria, viruses and fungi. These organisms can cause various crop diseases and thereby reduce the yield. Crops have to be protected from a variety of animals such as insects and rodents which may damage or eat the crop. These are known as pests. A chemical substance used for controlling and destroying pests is called as pesticide. Pesticides can be of two types, insecticides and rodenticides. Insecticides are used for killing insects and rodenticides are used for killing rodents. BHC and DDT are the examples of insecticides and warfarin and zinc phosphate are the examples of rodenticides. Fungicides are used for destroying fungi. Many copper salts and sulfur salts are examples of fungicides. Crops are cut and gathered once they are matured. This process is called as harvesting. The cutting of a crop after its maturation is called as harvesting. It can be done manually with the help of a sickle or by a machine called as harvester or combine. In the harvested crop, the grains are separated from the chaff. The process involves winnowing and threshing. Winnowing, which involves dropping of the grain from a height such that the heavier grain falls on the ground and the lighter chaff is carried by the wind. So once the crop is harvested, the grains have to be free from moisture and safe from any kind of insect or pest attack. The presence of moisture promotes microbial growth in the grains. So grains are first dried in the sun and then packed in gunny bags or metallic bins to be stored in the godowns. The large-scale storage of grains is done in granaries or silos to protect them from pests such as rodents, microbes, and insects. Pesticides are often sprayed in godowns beforehand to avoid the pest attack. So let's study about animal husbandry. Animals reared at home or in farms have to be provided with proper food, shelter, and care. When it is done on a large scale, it is called as animal husbandry.